Hey guys, welcome back to Madison's Reading Corner. I'm Madison, and this is Lady, and today we're going to be doing our November wrap-up and our December TBR. So I have a lot of books to talk about and not a lot of time to do it because I need to get to work soon. So let's get right into it. So jumping backwards a little bit, in the month of October I started reading and rereading the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. I got really close to finishing all of them in October, but it kind of carried over into November. So in November, I finished reading Allegiant by Veronica Roth. I finally have finished the entire series of Divergent. I have to say, it wasn't my favorite, and I knew it wouldn't be like as I was reading it because I saw the movies first. I really enjoyed Divergent, but the rest of the series just kind of fell flat for me. Pacing was a little off. Some of the decisions the characters made were annoying. But overall, it just wasn't my favorite, but still okay. So I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read in November was Scythe by Neal Shusterman, and it definitely lived up to the hype that everyone said about it. I loved it. It was a 5 out of 5 stars read for me, so I definitely would recommend it. For those of you who don't know, Scythe takes place in a futuristic society where all death has been eliminated. So there's no more wars, no more famines, no more diseases. Age isn't a factor anymore either. And the only way they can control the population is if a person who's ordained to be a scythe kills the people. It's really interesting because you follow these 2 young scythe apprentices as they're learning more about the scythedom and about the intricacies and political structures that take place in this little community. So definitely would recommend. 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I finished in November was This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I don't have the physical book with me because I read it on my Kindle, but it was such a great book. I really enjoyed it. It took me longer to get into it than it should have, and I think part of it's just that I was poking at it a little at a time. It was really interesting. It was really well written, so I definitely would recommend it to anyone who's interested in an urban fantasy situation. This Savage Song takes place in our world, but in a future where acts of violence create monsters. I'll kind of leave it at that because it's one of those stories that's really good if you go into it without knowing a lot of information, but it's really enjoyable. Characters are fascinating and really well rounded out, so definitely would recommend. I think I gave that one like a 4 out of 5 stars, 4.5, something like that. It was really good. And then the last one that I finished in November, because November was a crazy month for me. I didn't have a lot of time to do reading because I was doing NaNoWriMo at the same time. But one of the books that I finished was The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. And this is one that I listened to the audiobook of it, and I have to say I do not recommend the audiobook version for the first book. The narrator is so bad in my personal opinion. He just goes with like this surfer dude accent the whole time. And he has no inflection, and it's really weird. It was a struggle to get through. Which I know that shouldn't stop me from reading it, but it did for a while. I picked it up a while ago, and I had to stop because I just couldn't deal with the narrator. But I finally decided I was going to be a big girl, and I was going to finish it. It ended up being enjoyable. The story itself is really well done. I would recommend reading a physical copy or an ebook copy or something like that rather than listening to the audiobook. But The Black Prism is a fantasy story. It's kind of like a flintlock fantasy is what it's called, where the magic system is based around colors and light, and the more magic that you use, the shorter you live. So it's kind of an interesting balance between using your magic and it slowly is also killing you. So I'm interested to see how the rest of the story goes. So that's kind of, that's what I picked up in November. I also have a couple of books that I'm halfway through that I think I'll finish in December, but that I just don't think I'm going to have time to finish by the end of November. So for the month of December, I have a lot of goals that I want to reach. As far as books that I want to read by the end of the year, and also the amount of books I want to read by the end of the year. So as it stands in the end of November here, I've read 49 books, which my Goodreads goal for the year was to read 40, and I definitely surpassed that, but I want to keep pushing further. I really want to push myself to see how far I can get. Right now my goal is to get to 55 books by the end of the year, which which I think is doable, especially because I have a few books that I started in November that I know I'm going to finish probably the first or second week of December. Like, it's going to be a pretty quick read. So I need to get into that. But yeah, I just want to show you guys some of the books that I'm wanting to reach into and finish, just because they're some of my goals that I had for the rest of the year. So I'm just going to get into it. I know realistically I probably won't read all of these, but I'm pushing for it, and let's get into it. At the end of November, I started reading Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. It actually is my first time ever reading a Rick Riordan book, which is partially why I picked it up, because I feel like it's way overdue. I should have done that years ago, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a great little middle grade book. I'm loving it. And more than likely, I probably will finish it by the end of the month, if not on like December 1st. But that's definitely one that I'm going to finish by the end of the month. Next book that I want to finish in December is You Do You by Sarah Knight. It's a book that my husband picked up for me about pushing yourself, reaching your potential. And here's like a little blurb on the back of it. When it's okay to be selfish, why it's pointless to be perfect, and how to be difficult. And the idea is about just being yourself, you doing your own thing, reaching your goals, and not letting anyone get in your way. So definitely want to read this. I think this is going to be a great book to read before the start of the year. So definitely want to get into this because I think this is going to help me to start 2019 on the right note. And then I finally picked up A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, and I'm loving it. I'm only a couple of chapters in, but it already is such a phenomenal book. But I'm definitely loving A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, and I want to finish it by the end of the year. It actually was on my list of books that I wanted to read in 2018. So this is one that I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be an awesome way to end the year. I love some fantasy in my life, and this story is not disappointing. So gonna finish this. And then next one that I want to read is one that's been on my list for a while. I've been meaning to read it forever, and that is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. And yeah, this is one that I need to read, and it's a great time of year, I think, to read it, just because it's a historical fiction that takes place during World War II. And for some reason, like November through January is when I start craving historical fiction. And I think it's going to be a really heartbreaking, important story, and I'm excited to read it. Plus, I'm giving a copy of Salt to the Sea to a family member for Christmas, so I should probably read it before I give it to them. Next one that I want to finish in December is one that I'm currently working on and have been since like end of November-ish. And it's the second book in the Black Prism series, and this one is called The Blinding Knife by Brent Weeks. Luckily, they picked out a different narrator for the audiobook, which is so nice because, like I said earlier, that last narrator was horrible. This one's better. I still don't love it. It's not like my favorite audiobook narrator that I've heard, but I still think that this is a huge improvement. The storytelling is just much easier for me to get through, and so far the book itself is great, and Brent Weeks' writing is really good. So, gonna finish it. And the next one that I'm going to pick up and rather finish, I promised myself I would finish it by the end of the year, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I picked this up like at the beginning of the year, and for some reason I just wasn't in the mood for it when I picked it up, and I didn't finish it. So I'm going to do it. I know I'm going to love it. I literally have like the next book in this series on my bookshelf. I'm ready to read it. Like, I want to commit to this series because I know I'm going to love it, but I haven't done it. But I'm going to, dang it. I'm going to finish A Court of Thorns and Roses. And then the next book that I need to finish, again, is one that I picked up a long time ago and didn't finish, so I need to just start over on it. And that is 1984 by George Orwell. Okay, so this is a copy that has Animal Farm and 1984 in it. Animal Farm is one of my favorite books. I probably want to reread that one too, to be honest, and it's only like 90 pages, so it's not that difficult. But 1984, I need to read it. It's an important story. I will finish it, but I have to commit to this. I'm going to hold myself accountable, and I think BookTube is going to be beneficial because it's going to make me stick to my goals. Make me finish 1984. I know it's going to be good. I know I'm going to get stuff out of it, but I'm going to do it. It's going to happen. Dang it. And then the next one is another one that I put off until the end of the year on books that I was going to finish. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Why have I not read this yet? I know it's going to be amazing, but I just haven't been in the mood for it. Like, it's such a beautiful book, and I think that's partially why I bought it initially, is because this cover is gorgeous and it has these beautiful black pages. But I haven't gotten to it yet. I just haven't been in the mood for it, but I think I am now. I'm in the mood for a good heist story. So I'm gonna get to it, making it happen. Hopefully. If not in December, then definitely in January. I'm gonna finish this. And then the last book that I want to at least get started on is Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. But my husband bought this for me. He bought me a bunch of like really nice like inspirational books, and I love him for that. Because I never buy them for myself, but I always love reading them. But this is one that I think is going to be really beneficial for me, especially going into the new year. A lot like You Do You, like I mentioned earlier. I think that this is one that is going to push me to reach my goals, work on my creative things, not be afraid of living my best life, and pushing myself to do all the things that I want to do. So, gonna read it. Gonna read Daring Greatly. Oh, man, I'm gonna be really busy in December. Plus, I need to finish writing my book in December because I promised myself I would do that. I have so many things to do. Those are the ambitious books that I want to finish by the end of the year. I know realistically that I'm not gonna finish all of them, but that's okay because I just want to push myself to see how far I can go by the end of the year. And I'm excited regardless. I think it's going to be a great end of 2018. Overall, it's been a great reading year for me. And even if I don't finish one more book, I will be happy with how I ended. So let me know in the comments what some of your goals are for the end of the year. I would love to hear about them. And I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.